victory and the agony of defeat.
Matterson, great ball around the corner, Penisini, he beats them all! Junior Polar out wide, bumped away from Trindle, Sharks coming through, none of them can hold this!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Tip Sheet Podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. Joining me is my good mate, Sixties, also known as Craig. It was the night before Christmas. And I don't know if Santa's got anything in the bag for the Eels fans before the big 2-5 rolls over and we have that big day off with our families. But we're going to talk some football, big fella. I've got a little bit on the docket here, some Parramatta news, some NRL news. Not the craziest week or Christmas week for the NRL, which I suppose is a good thing considering how crazy can encompass a lot of negative things when it comes to our glorious code. But yeah, not too much happening this week, but we've got a bit to talk about. Before we do, as always, a quick check-in on you, quick check-in on chat. Seeing lots of people saying hello, Merry Christmas to everyone in there. Neil, Phil, Ozzy, Matty's in there too. Kix, Scott, Paul, hello one and all, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you as well.
Yeah, let me echo those sentiments, John, and thank everyone for joining us tonight. It's probably starting to get into the realms of it's a bit difficult for people to tune in live, especially those with families, getting things all ready to prepare for Santa's visit. John, what I want to say is the universe will be one strange place if it can manage to hold up its record with us, because we've got one day between our news podcast and Christmas. Yeah. Surely there's not going to be a big story dropping. Now, I checked in with a certain Parramatta executive this afternoon and said, look, please tell me there's going to be no big news that's going to land tomorrow after we do our podcast tonight. I was assured there's going to be no big news landing tomorrow, so we're safe. We don't have to get a heads up about anything that's going to happen. So let's just see how this plays out, John, because without fail, there's always something that drops straight after the news podcast. But that's life. That's footy life, mate. Look, as usual, as well as thanking our viewers who are there live, a shout out to our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta, and of course the home of the Eels, Para Leagues, who have been doing all sorts of marvellous things for Christmas, helping out with Parramatta Mission, all that sort of stuff. It's a community club, and you and I are both proud members of that community club. So, yeah, shout out to both of those sponsors. Also, John, a reminder to our listeners, our viewers, no matter what platform you're watching or listening to this on, if you can give it a like and subscribe, that would be much appreciated. It helps us to get that content out there to as many people as possible. Hit the stinger.
News team, assemble!
Take it away, big fella.
John, let's just start off with a bit of shameless self-promotion, because we go 52 weeks a year with Eels content. You're not even going to see that from the Eels themselves. And we don't take a break. And we've really pumped out the content in the last 2 weeks. I hope that people listen to the last two podcasts that we had with the recording with Mark O'Neill, and also with Paraleagues directors Richard Fodor and Darren Adam. Both are important podcasts because they get Eels supporters up to date with what's going on, as well as both Eels supporters and Paraleagues club members in terms of the chat with Richard and Darren. It's really important to know just what the club is on the cusp of at the moment. You've got that centre of excellence that's there up at Kellyville. you've got the leagues club that currently encompasses the leagues club itself at Parramatta, which is about to have that major redevelopment, Vikings at Dundas, Dural Club, and now potentially very soon Pitt Town Community Club. So the club itself is setting itself up for a massive time in its history, setting itself up for success. And whether it's the Eels or whether it's the different clubs, it's all part of the Para Group. And this is why it's important to hear like both sides of what's going on in the organisation, because you've got all that administration and business side of it, as well as the football things that that is handled by Mark O'Neill. Then you've also got the some of that money side of things, the strong backing that's there, not just for the NRL, but for junior rugby league through Parramatta Leagues Club. And that's really important because they are the ones that are there to propagate junior rugby league in the district and ensure the future. And they pump like between $300,000 or $400,000 a year into junior rugby league. So have a listen to those podcasts, get up to date with what's happening because there are exciting times ahead. And if you haven't done so already, also jump in with the old team list post, which always gets plenty of opinions, and there's plenty of opinions there about what the Eels might possibly look like in round one. John, I did, for anyone that hasn't read it, I gave everyone a reminder of what we ended up fielding in round one last year, just to show that things can go a little bit astray and not what you think by the time round one comes about. So we know that there's 2 months between now and then, but it's always a bit of fun to speculate. So we've got plenty of content there. If you're an Eels supporter and you enjoy following the Cumberland Throw and all that we produce, just share it with your mates. You've all got plenty of Parramatta supporting mates. Just share it with them. We're now entering our 11th season as the Cumberland Throw. And whilst we have around about 1 million site visits during the year, I reckon we could double that easy next year. So we're aiming for a bigger and better year next year, along with the Eels. And we'd really appreciate it if our loyal readers, listeners, our TCT community can help us to grow in 2026. So with that shameless self-promotion out of the way, we do have to start off with a little bit of sad news, which is, again, the passing of another Eels player. And it's from a similar era to what we've had lately, which is it's no doubt it's a shock to the system, to those that played with them. It's again another player that I had in my autograph book, John, Laurie Wakefield. So Laurie joined the Eels in 1970 as a fullback who'd played for country and for New South Wales. So he joined partway through the 1970 season, stayed till 1972, played 14 first grade games across those 2.5 seasons. Player 279, and on behalf of the Cumberland Throw and fellow Eels supporters, I'd just like to extend our sympathies to Laurie's family and loved ones. He was a bush footballer originally from Parkes, and to have represented his state coming through from country representation was quite an achievement. So he was someone who I'm sure the family has been proud of for his achievements. And yes, we extend our sympathies to his family and loved ones. John, I thought I'd give a bit of a training update because the Eels have now wrapped up their 2025 segment of the pre-season. So they're now on a 2-week break. They come back, not sure what that date would be, around about the 6th of January. I think it is the Monday, something like that. They finished up with the last field session on Saturday up at Kellyville. it was very kind of them to do the field session in front of the grandstand, on the field in front of the grandstand, because we were able to get pretty close up with being able to hear what was going out on the field, as well as a close up to well, not just hear their voices, but the sound of some of the tackles as well, the reactions to some of the play. And in one instance, Jason Riles not being too happy with what was going down. And yes, he does have a command of the English language that you would expect all football coaches to have. There's certain words that get the point across, and he's not lacking in those words. So, look, it's an interesting thing. I think the last couple of years have been great in terms of listening to the coaching philosophies, which the staff there have been kind enough to share with me. And Wisey's talked about that 70-30, 60-40 sort of success failure rate, or I guess execution in training sessions. They don't want training sessions so easy that it's just being executed at 100%. That means there's nothing that they're giving them that they're learning. They're not being challenged at all. They're not learning anything new. So when you get those errors, it's showing that they're pitching it right in that sweet spot of it's something that they have to, it's a skill they have to develop, or it's something they haven't quite got down pat, so they can keep working on it. It was obvious that they were straying above that error rate, and it just seemed to come in a flood of errors, all one after the other. And Rolsey let them know they needed to get focused again in some bit of colourful language, and they did that. They did that. Look, it was quite an interesting session to watch, mainly because of the pace of it. Like, the pace of it was outstanding. I wrote about this, and I'm not going to give anything away, but I did write about a play that involved Moses, and there was a lot of bodies in motion. You'd have to think the defence knew it was coming because they're plays that they work on, and that still didn't stop them. They certainly weren't able to stop Moses, just his acceleration. I mean, everyone knows how fast he is, but sometimes it's when you see it in circumstances close up like this that you realise how fast he is off the mark, and how difficult it is for players to get hold of him when he accelerates like that. And let's just say the cheers and the reaction was happening before, and I can't even remember whether it was Jordan Samrani that might have touched down in the corner, but the reaction was instantaneous. It was basically like a collective cheer and wow. Where we were watching it from, it was like there might have been an expletive or two that was uttered from us about just how spectacular it looked. But it'll be interesting to see as the season unfolds whether it's a. I mean, these are plays where they've got multiple options and variations on them anyway. So I guess that's how a New South Wales Cup team that knows the shapes still can't shut it down, because they don't know which variation they're going for. So but really good session altogether. As I said, interesting because it had that little glitch in the middle of the session, but overall very strong. Seemed to be plenty said after training was over. Probably final messages to the players before they went on their way. I think they might have had some sort of Christmas celebrations that afternoon/night. But they get a good 15 days off now, and you'd expect them to come back nice and refreshed. What will be interesting, of course, is whether when they come back, there's any new faces.
Yes.
And let's get onto that, because the mail from north of the border is very strong about Brian Kelly.
Yes, it's definitely picked up since we last recorded on Tuesday, and obviously after we had a chance to speak to Mark O'Neill and whatnot, it has picked up traction north of the border, and we've gone from probably, look, I wouldn't say 50-50, but it does seem to be firming pretty sharply now, doesn't it?
It does. And look, it's not surprising that you would start to get, if it is done, that you'd start to get some leaks, because for a start, Kelly's a family man, so he'd have to be, maybe if he's coming down with the family, I think he's got a couple of kids, that there'd be these sorts of things in, starting to go into motion, talking to family about the move, maybe making arrangements for where they live down here. And once you start to get those sorts of things happening, it then means that the word gets out beyond the football circles. As we know, John, from the past, a lot of stuff when it comes to players signing contracts can come from family.
Yep.
Yeah, players talk to their family. The family, maybe the immediate family, talks to the extended family. People tell mates.
6 degrees of separation, suddenly the whole world knows. It's just like one of those things eventually, yeah. But
yeah, we talk. We've talked in the past about when the Eels signed Michael Jennings, and the players had no clue that he'd signed, and we were telling a couple of them, what was his name, Danny
Wicks.
Danny Wicks, yeah. So Danny Wicks was doing a bit of rehab down at Sale Yards, and he was with one of the other players who was playing cup that year, and they were on the exercise bikes. And I said to Danny, you're going to have a new player joining you very soon. And he said, who? And I said, Michael Jennings. And he burst out in laughter and said, someone's taking the piss,
someone's
mate.
Taking the mickey out of you. And this was like, this was in that big freeway center swap, wasn't it? It was
yes.
Pete, what's his name? Peter Hiku. And then there was another centre that went somewhere else too, and we ended up with Michael Jennings. So
yeah, it was all the dominoes basically fell, and we ended up with Michael Jennings. But he even went so far as to have a $50 bet with our mate Mitch, and of course it was Jennings' family that had I think passed on the information to Mitch. So Mitch was the one that knew, had the bet. And
playing with house money right there,
yeah.
Bit of insider trading.
I don't think he ever saw.
No.
Danny's coin.
He did
at all.
End up with a good story out of it, but that was about it. So
yeah, that's about it. But that's an example of how you can't necessarily go to the players and go, do you know what's going on with this bloke or that bloke, or who's going to sign, who's going to be there, because there are occasions where they might be amongst the last to know. I'm sure there's instances where their coach talks to them about the potential of bringing in a particular player into the group and getting some sort of feedback from the leadership group or whoever, especially if it's someone who maybe is looking to resurrect their career or is looking for a big change, maybe leaving their previous club under not the best circumstances. So that sort of thing can happen, but apart from that, we know that the Eels try to keep things really, really quiet. And the great example of that was Iongi's extension, where nobody knew about it. Iongi and his manager kept quiet on it, never played out in the media. It was just a simple announcement that he'd extended.
Yeah.
So
yeah, to the point, like I said, we had people here in chat asking us every week, have you heard about Iongi? And we're like, no, we haven't. Like, we can only assume that the club is working on it, and sure enough, they were. But yes, it is both the greatest strength of the club right now, and also, as a fan, as a content creator, it can be very frustrating in a good way that you don't get these leaks, but you can't complain. Like, you'd much rather have a tight ship, getting the job done professionally. I know, some people say that we're difficult to work with in terms of player agents. I don't know. We seem to be getting the signings done, like the ones that we need to get done. So,
John, what we will say is, and I'd be surprised if anyone wants to argue with this, virtually every addition to the club for 2025 worked out.
yes.
They all added some value. Now, have we missed out on some targets that we wanted? Yes, we have. But you then look and go, well, has it been a good thing or a bad thing? We've lost a player or two as well from the roster. Will that end up being a good thing or a bad thing? I guess we will find out when we get to the point of being able to know which players are coming in.
And I suppose
I'm pretty sure we're going to add 2 outside backs.
Yeah, and obviously Kelly being the foremost one right now, but who knows who the second one could be. The club has always been, we talked about it with Mark O'Neill on the podcast, the club does value having that open spot or two in the top 30 to make a play early mid-season to bolster the club. And last year that saw us getting not just one player, but 2 in Dylan Walker and Talon Silva. I do think with Kelly coming, backline depth is still very much an issue, but it's not a desperate priority. Like, you have to get someone in the house, because the moment you get one injury, you're absolutely cooked. I think with Kelly there, I think with Jordan Samrani showing that he's still got some value there in the backline, that the Eels can navigate the early parts of the season barring an absolute injury crisis. But yes, like you said, a second back at some point is very much on the cards. And I suppose that comes to the other side of the conversation. I see people in chat asking about this, and it's a fair question, Craig. Jason Riles has always valued in the just under 2 years he's been here, or less than 2 years, but in the time he's been here, he has always
15 months roughly.
Always valued the player that wants to be here over the player that wants to leave. And there are degrees to this. This isn't just like an absolute statement, because there are players that clearly the game had gone past them, or they were looking at other opportunities and weren't fully committed. Sean Russell, we talked about him last week. There were some rumours about the Bears lurking. Unfortunately, it looks like the Bears, it's not official, but the media are reporting it pretty confidently. The Bears have come to the table with a pretty good offer for Sean Russell, and it's a 4-year deal. We haven't got the full financials, but you'd imagine he'd be pretty well compensated in this theoretical 4-year deal. The Eels can't match a 4-year deal for a centre, I don't think, Craig.
No, look, I've tried to do a bit of digging, John. All I've simply been able to find out, I can't get any specific numbers in terms of the dollar value, but what I've been able to find out is that the offer would have bested what the Eels would have offered in terms of the years of the contract. Probably by a year, maybe, but also the monetary value. So
it's better on both ends, and that's no one's, to the shock of no one. The Bears need recruits. Sean Russell, young centre, had a career year in 2025. Still room to improve. I saw it in chat. People would have loved to have kept him. I agree, but if Russell is gone, and I'm saying this still as a hypothetical, because like you said, we don't have confirmation. It is a strong media link. If Russell is gone and Brian Kelly comes in, does Jason Riles hold true with his philosophy that he wants the players that are here or going to be here and giving them greater value or inside running to positions? What's your stance on
John, that? I think it would play out exactly as it played out with Dylan Brown. That would be my thinking, which is while ever Sean would be the best option in the team, he would continue to be selected maybe until such point as if the Eels weren't going to qualify for finals football, then I think he would start to do the preparations for the following year. That would be what I would see, because if you've got someone for a year, they're an Eel for the year. I mean, we've only signed Pezet for the year.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's no different to that. Dylan Brown was selected for most of the season until the season was basically over and done with. And then he had the opportunity to leave early. He didn't want to leave early. And you know what, that's I think there's a credit to Dylan Brown with that as
Oh,
well.
it's a massive tick of character for Dylan, exactly.
Maybe it didn't help us because it could have freed up a bit more salary cap space. But he wanted to finish the year as an Eel. He did that. He finished on a high. He continued that into the post-season rep games and was an absolute star for New Zealand.
Robbed of the golden boot, by the way. Just
yeah. So look, that's what I think will happen there. John, the other interesting discussion really is Ryan Matterson.
Yes, big article in the media about the not quite kiss and make up, but the Eels giving him a chance to make a fresh start, and he's been back at the preseason training.
Yes, but look, I think there's people were making. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right way to say this because I don't think there's any way that Matto could really impress too much being in rehab at the moment. And I don't like to talk about rehab or anything like that, but if you've got, because I started to get messages like he's been going really well at training and Riles has been happy. Is this true? And it's like, look, I don't see all of training. There's obviously components that happen indoors in the gym and in team meetings and things like that. But he's not able to participate in the footy side of it.
So it puts an absolute cap on what he can do to impress the coaching staff.
Yeah.
In particular, Jason Riles. And that's the other part of the conversation. And I can't remember if we talked about it in the podcast or if I was thinking about a conversation I had with my brother during the week. I'm talking about, you put your team list post up, Craig, and we're always talking about team lists when we're off the podcast and we're having our, daily yak or whatever it is about football. The Eels forward pack is so competitive that I'm struggling to fit in players outside Matterson into our bench that I want to see playing. And Matterson's here. Obviously, we're talking about a reset of a slate, like, a fresh start for him. But even considering a fresh start, he is so far behind the eight ball, behind a number of other forwards. So it is a tough spot to be in for him right now.
Oh, look, John, it absolutely is. And I did see one of our TCT readers put in his New South Wales Cup team list in his reply and couldn't find a place in the starting team for Tony Mattielli and Tiankin Brown in the New South Wales Cup team. Which will tell you where the
it is a fierce
he had them on the interchange there, and that wasn't including the likes of Josiah Funa Iuta or Ryder Talangi, who he had starting the season in Flegg. So it's, when you look at the age of some of the younger players coming through, I can understand how you would have to put them where they fit age-wise, rather than having them having limited opportunities or game time.
Although
you don't want
one of the telling statements from our chat with Mark O'Neill was the importance of those lower grades all the way through the New South Wales Cup being a priority vehicle for development, and not necessarily trying to put the respective level of competition success over getting a kid or a young man or a fringe first grader, depending on what degree of development they're at or what stage of development they're at, ready for first grade. So that's the other factor too in these team lists. But going back to Matto, obviously if he is completely bought in, he is a big piece of value for the depth for the Eels. But even then, he is behind the eight ball, and it's going to be a tough gig for him to crack the team.
Everyone who's, if we're talking about the players who were there from the first day of the pre-season, well, they're like 7 weeks into their pre-season. Conditioning wise, the opportunities they've had to to practice the different shapes and plays that they're going to run this year, combinations with the players. There's a number of players that Ryan Matterson would have barely played football with.
Yeah. And given the brand of football that they're playing under Jason Rolls and the interconnectivity between forwards, the demand they place on forwards to be able to be ball players, which Matterson can do, but it's more about, like you said, the synchronicity, the connections between those players. It's not just as easy as, hey, you can offload, you can pass. It's, well, here are the timings, here are the different nuances to how a certain player might run a line. And he's, like you said, 6 months behind everyone else because he went over to England and had that essentially half a gap year. Yeah.
John, the other thing too with Matto is that he should be one of the ideal players for a middle forward these days because he's got the mobility, got a little bit of pace, he's got the ball skills. You would think that he's an ideal candidate for that sort of evolving middle forward role. However, it's been interesting. I've had a lot of people say to me, "What's my take on Matto? And does he have an attitude problem? Is there, what's the reason for this fall from grace?" And my reply has been simple. Matto hasn't been the worst player in the team when he's played NRL. Far from it. And it comes down to, I think, has he performed according to the salary that he's on?
Yeah.
And I would say that he hasn't performed on a regular basis according to the salary that he's on. Is he capable of playing up at that standard? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if he gets an opportunity this year, be it in New South Wales Cup or in NRL with the Eels, the ball's in his court. Because if Riles is giving him a fresh start, as has been reported in the media, and I'm saying as has been reported in the media, because it's not coming out from Parramatta, but if he has given him the fresh start, then it's in his interest to make best use of that. If he ends up by circumstance getting the opportunity, then, and let's say, for example, Parramatta aren't keen to keep him beyond next season. He wants to be in the shop front.
Well, it still behooves him to
showcase his
to buy
skills
in
for his next contract, because whatever the clubs haven't shown that they've wanted to recruit Matto when the Eels have been prepared to pay some of the freight. So if he's not in the shop window during 2026, how's he going to get a deal where the new club is going to be paying every cent that goes to him? Well, the only way you do that is by playing good footy.
Yes.
So, it's in his interest. He really should be in the same ballpark as a Jack de Belin, an experienced forward who's ready to step up and take some leadership with the young players that are there. As I said to you, I think he's got it within him to be that ideal middle forward these days. But whether he can produce it or not's another matter. So it's all up to him. It's all up to him. So, but at this stage, you'd say he's with the club for 2026.
Yep.
Now, this brings us to the other big talking point recently, which is Keon Kolomatangi. And we're talking about someone who was potentially going to be a 2027 recruit for the Eels, and where there were three clubs in the running, the Eels, the Dragons, and of course the incumbent club, the Rabbitohs. Now, you notice there was a whole lot of mail that came out, I think it was last weekend or just before last weekend, that that Kolomatangi was all but done for the Rabbitohs. I think you'll find that this is the Rabbitohs being quite bullish about their prospects and trying to send a message out there. I don't think Parramatta's given up by any stretch of the imagination. So there might yet be something to play out there. We'll obviously find out fairly soon, but there's been no announcement made.
Yes, and you've got to feel if the press was that strong overall, then a pre-Christmas announcement is a huge boost to the South Sydney membership. So, again, like this isn't definitive that the Eels are right there, but, well, over the line,
No.
but they're right there in general, aren't they? Like, this is their guy. Like, there is zero doubt about it. We talk about the lack of leaks outside of Parramatta, Craig, or inside of Parramatta going to outside. The fact that the Eels are being so definitively connected to Keon Kolomatangi, this is their guy. Like, this is the one they want. So they're not going to go let this one slip lightly. And that doesn't mean that they're going to get him. They're not going to mortgage their future for him. But they're willing to, I think they're going to put a very, very serious offer on the table. So Paul saying, I think we can give up on Keon. Look, Souths are the favourites. Like, let's not mince words here. Souths are the favourites. He is very loyal to that club. But the Eels have a very competitive offer on the table. They've got a great vision to sell to him. We spoke about last week, so I am retreading on the ground here. But, you know, Jason Riles has established himself extremely strongly in his first year as a coach. That doesn't mean he's a super coach. We're not kidding ourselves here, but he is on the right trajectory. I think the Eels, they're going to go, if they go down here, Craig, they're going down swinging, like very hard.
Yeah. Look, I personally think, you know, it's probably a 70% chance that he stays with the Rabbitohs. Well, all I'm saying is don't accept the media mail that came out in a sudden flood last week to be, the gospel, because you've seen it went quiet almost as soon as it came out with that flood of he's going to stay with the Rabbitohs. I'm just saying I don't think the Eels have given up on that yet. We'll see how it plans out. Like John, I believe Rabbitohs are favoured. I think it's probably more likely than not that they go to the Rabbitohs because he does seem like a loyal club player. But I wouldn't say the Eels.
If loyalty wins out, you've got to tip your hat to him. Like, we've talked about in the past, but in both ways of the transaction, clubs that are not loyal to players that are not loyal to clubs, and how there is so much mercenary behaviour in the NRL on both sides of the ledger. If Keon is willing to choose South Sydney over the Eels, like, I'll be frustrated because he could be a huge piece for us in a push towards a premiership. But if the man's going to prioritise loyalty over whatever offer we have there, then more power to him. So,
yes.
In the same breath, we're not giving up on the deal yet. I think, like I said, the Eels have put together, both financially and in terms of the package for the football vision, a very good offer. And there is a chance for Keon to come here and be the guy in the forward pack for a premiership push. And I think that's a big selling point.
Yes, and now, John, we move on to the junior rep trials. A couple of weeks ago, we had the girls' junior rep trials at Kellyville on the Saturday night. Last Saturday night, it was the boys' turn. So we had the Mats and then the SG ball, and was pretty convincing wins to the Eels in both trials. Now, bear in mind, their trials, they play under a whole lot of different conditions. They don't take kicks for goal. They don't take penalty kicks to the sideline. They have unlimited replacements. Yeah. So and there are a number of players that will play in this trial that will maybe be cut from the summer squad. So it's always interesting to see. You'd probably get more of a guide in the trials into the new year than you do in the one trial before Christmas.
Agreed.
However, what I will say, John, is these trials, what they've shown so far is that the Eels look more advanced than their opponents out of the Shire, because both the girls and the boys have played Cronulla in these two consecutive Saturdays. And the boys won the Mats trial 28-4 or 7 tries to 1. They won the SG Ball trial 24-16 or 6 tries to 4. So there was some really, really bright attacking football. The Mats, my goodness, they look a big team. A big team. Now, there were players rested in both of those matches for the Eels. No doubt there were for the Sharks as well. Unfortunately, we weren't working with team lists, so it was virtually impossible to identify Matt's players. I'm hopeful that when we have their next trial, which will be against the Bulldogs, and I believe will also be at Kellyville in second week of January. So hopefully we, as I said, we do get those. We do get some team sheets that we can work off for the call and get to have a look at what players are there. But for the Mats, yeah, just a bigger, stronger, faster outfit than the Sharks, I would have to say. The fullback that came on, Larima Siusiu, there'd already been plenty spoken about with him, and
for
the little bit of a battle that went on between New South Wales and the Eels.
Yep.
And you can see why. But to be perfectly honest, John, I'd seen footage of him. Well, I went back and had a look at footage of him after watching him on Saturday playing for the Waratahs, and I believe he only turns 16 next year.
Yeah, his first year.
Right?
I believe his first year, Harold Matts. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And what's remarkable is he's a fair size for a fullback.
Yeah.
And looking at him play rugby union, to me, he looked like a rugby league fullback playing rugby union.
It's funny saying that, but there are, and I don't think it's a coincidence, a lot of those star union players that play both codes and they just look like rugby league players, like just their mechanics, the way they hold the ball, the way they approach the line, really feels rugby league over union because of the variance in the two codes these days. And yeah, CSU, very highly raised touted prospect and one of the exciting additions to the Harold Matthews roster for sure. Obviously, you don't want to pump up a young kid too much too early because there's a lot of football to be played between under 17s and the NRL, but he is definitely an exciting player in the Parramatta pipeline.
Yeah, because from recollection, I don't think he came on until the second quarter in that game. And I remember thinking, and he had number 25 on from
I believe it was
what
25,
I can recall.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember thinking, when I'm watching, I'm like, who on earth is this? Like, he's come on as a replacement. Does that mean he was someone that they've earmarked to be a starter, but they've just given him a rest at the start of the game, or is he someone who was maybe fringe and he's just showing them exactly what he could do? And then when I found out it was CUCU, it was like, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That explains it. Yeah. So, yeah, just, they looked really cohesive. I really liked the work of the back three. Look, there were some changes during the game, but I thought the back three functioned really well coming back from kicks.
Scott was out at the game and said it's the hottest trial he's ever been to. Very rough weather in Sydney right now, so no surprise here that the trial was absolutely brutal.
John, I started off in a seat in the stand, and after 5 minutes of sitting there with the sun directly in my face, because it was like a setting sun, but it was a brutal setting sun, I thought I've got to find somewhere to go. And I looked at there's a whole swag of people that were over on the hill behind the posts and on the veranda of the modular buildings there where the staffing used to be. And I thought, will I go there? And I thought, I'm not going to be able to see a thing from there, like end on. I'll have no clue, but it is shady. And then I moved down that end of the grandstand into the balcony, and there was a cross breeze that was coming through, and I thought, well, that's the relief that I need.
The Kellyville Doctor.
And then the Kellyville Doctor, and then the SG Ball are able to watch that in shade, so that just the sun had just gone behind the trees by the time, just after the start of that. So,
and
but
the
yeah,
SG Ball trial,
brutal.
we think there was a lot of depth talent using that trial, right? I think.
Yeah, there was certainly players that were rested.
And we had a question from Neil, which is pertinent, not so much for this trial, but on the other side of Christmas. Would you expect to see any of the NRL preseason SG Ball talent featuring in the trial? No. I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's actually up for grabs now whether they start in the SG Ball, which I know that we've talked about the consistency the Eels have had with starting those kids in SG Ball at age for grade, but I don't know, like just the pipeline is very like congested in a good way, and I don't know. I think there is definitely an opportunity for these guys to start in flag. But the only thing being that the big thing I think is that the SG Ball starts early, so you got a chance to pump football into them much earlier, which I don't think should be ignored either. I think that's a pretty big value piece to start them in SG Ball.
Yeah, just to wrap up that trial, there was probably I thought they played within themselves in the SG Ball because they had a number of players that were rested. But my goodness, we got some highlight moments from Riley Davis in that game. So the fullback in both grades, the fullbacks performed really, really, really well. There was one sequence of play from Riley Davis where first of all he brought down a line break on his own in front of the goalposts, one-on-one tackle. And then from the resulting play, the ball, he chased from marker to make a tackle on the first receiver and shut it down. And then I think it was like maybe two tackles later when, again, the ball was shifted to the right. And it looked like a certain try. The centre or back rower or whoever on the edge sliced through, and he's over the line. And next thing you see this Eels player flash across, and it was Riley Davis, and somehow he held the Sharks player up over the line. So three massive defensive plays, effort on effort on effort in that. And I need to give him a shout out for that because it was very impressive.
Fantastic moments in Harold Matts this year. So it's good to see him graduating into SG Ball as a junior ball player with a strong start in the trial. So it's going to be.
And John, he came in to that fullback role only partway through the season.
Yeah.
Because he was replacing what's his name now? The big centre / fullback, Cyrus Bloomfield. Yeah. So Cyrus started the season at fullback, and then moved into the centres, and Riley came in to play fullback, and I thought he went outstandingly well when he came in. Well, based on this, he's gone up another notch, gone up another level. Based on that. So, but just back to what you were saying about the players, there's a couple of players who are eligible for SG Ball. So you're talking about Ryder Talangi,
Lincoln Fletcher,
and Lincoln Fletcher, who've been doing the NRL preseason. Now, it's my understanding that both will do a full NRL preseason, which would take them through, including the trials, to the end of February. Now, if that's the case, the junior reps are already a month done by that stage. So they're almost halfway through their regular season. I don't see the point in it. I guess we would find out if their thinking is to do that, whether those players are there when we come back from Christmas, or if come the end of January they disappear and they go go back to their teams. I think if they haven't trained as part of the team, to me it becomes less and less likely that they would go back. Although the way that the club now trains with similar methodologies across the grades, you would think it wouldn't be too hard for someone who is, first of all, an advanced athlete compared to the others that are in that age group
to go back and apply those systems
with the NRL.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you would think they would have no trouble going back and being a leader out there on the field. But for mine, I think you have to ask yourself, is there any benefit to the player in going back to an age team if they've been training all pre-season against men? And look, there's every likelihood, I'd say, that Lockie Kanikas is going back to play flag. He's finished up for the year. I think he finished a week or so ago. Don't think he was part of training this last week from memory. So he's probably gone back to join the flag team with their training. He's aged out of the SG ball, but I would say he's going to play flag. But I think he was the only younger one that's not doing the full pre-season. So I guess that'll be confirmed when they come back into the new year. Whether someone like players like Josiah and Ryder start in flag rather than New South Wales Cup, that's probably the big question mark for both of those two fellas, considering that they, we certainly saw Ryder not looking out of place in New South Wales Cup at the end of last year.
Josiah was starting in the back row in that same period too. So,
yes.
Yeah, again, harkening back to our chat with Mark O'Neill, where the correct view, like the presiding view, but the correct view is at the lower grades all the way through to the New South Wales Cup. Success there, obviously, on a macro level is fantastic, but they are vehicles for NRL development. If we're harkening true to that, then you could expect to see some of these young guys maybe not starting in Cup straight away because of depth in the club, but getting there pretty quickly, given that they were there last year.
And again, if you haven't taken that opportunity to have a listen to the podcast with Buckets, please do so, because there's a whole range of things that we talk with Mark about. We certainly touch on recruitment and what's happening with pathways, those sorts of things. But we're certainly in a privileged position that we get to chat with Mark every pre-season, where he gets us up to date with what's happening around the club. I guess what you and I can say, John, is that things are run quite professionally. What we get to see, and we're certainly grateful for that time, and hopefully the listeners also get something out of those podcasts as well. We can't expect them to talk about the specifics of who they're recruiting, and I know people want to hear that. I know people want to hear we've got this player or we got that player.
Craig even gave you a little slip in there. He asked if there's any names you can drop, Mark, and we did the best we could there. Trust us, but like we said, the Eels are a much tighter run ship these days, and there is a little bit of bad, and as a fan that comes of that, and I say bad very like it's not the correct term, but the frustration that comes because you don't always get the juicy.
It's frustration because we want to know.
Yeah,
we want to know.
It's like literally this time of year, you want to open your Christmas presents early, like they're under the tree there, or something's happening. You want to be able to say, yeah, Mum, Dad, can I open one? I've been good. It's like, well, no, that's not how it works with trying to be a well-run, football club. And like you said, I think there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes now of how the Eels are run, and I know people still have their concerns and frustrations about people in certain positions and whatnot, because that's what it is to be a fan, is to question a lot of this stuff. But I think the Eels they're data-driven. They've got people that are both analytically driven in the coaching staff, but also have a lot of experience and feel for the code. So it's not just the numbers say do this, but it's also it's using data in conjunction with nuance. which I think is the correct way of applying data, Craig. It's not just saying, well, the numbers say do this, let's do that. It's the numbers say there is interesting information like driving results or outcomes this way, so let's explore that. And I think that's Jason Riles, and that's the coaching stuff. And yeah, I think that we're in a position to be successful for a while, which is good.
Absolutely. John, are there any questions there from
we've got
chat?
A couple of questions in chat. There was a few people at the trial, which is good to see. Sonic Boom was also commenting on Aroma CSE there as well, so great to see people supporting the juniors very early in their preseason. Was it Mitchie the question here? Where was it? Mitchie saying, who's most likely to debut in 26? Tiankin Brown or Ryder Talangi, that is. Still a long way out from that sort of football, Craig.
Yeah.
I know I made the big outlandish statement after the New South Wales Cup final series that Ryder could make a debut. I still think it's within the realms of possibility. But like I said, you kind of consider the forward pack now and just who you're leaving out. And I know injuries and suspensions and whatnot are going to play their part, but the Eels, you're already looking at leaving out some very good NRL players. And I think it makes a debut a bit harder. But I don't think either player is doing much wrong relative to their young stature in the squads. So, I don't know, maybe Big T?
Yeah, look, I think before we get to them, we're more likely to see the likes of, say, a Will Latu or an Araz Ananva make an NRL debut. But out of Ryder and Tiankin, I'd say probably just by virtue of the fact that he's a little bit older than Tiankin.
A little bit more down the development pathway. Which is no slight on Ryder because we have very big Ryder fans. But that's a fair question. I think there was going back a little bit was it Josh? Apologies if I get it wrong, Josh. I saw you in chat there, but I think he was asking, would the Eels match 5 years from the Dragons or potentially South Sydney for Keon Kolomatangi? I think that's a lever they could pull. I don't know if you've heard anything, Craig, and I don't know if you're privy to sharing it anyway, but I look at that and we've talked about it. 5-year deals are reserved for your blue chip players. But the way the Eels have gone about with pursuing Keon Kolomatangi, it's pretty clear they value him in the blue chip tier. And that's why we were literally talking about the fact that if Eels miss Keon, it's not for a lack of effort. So I do think that's a lever they could pull. I think Keon turning 28 in 26, I think, to make that a bit of a confusing statement there. I believe that 28 carries him through to 33. I think that you could justify that. That's kind of like, it wouldn't be too dissimilar to what Junior Barlow's most recent deal with the Eels was.
And also see it as, look, we've extended Isaiah Iongi, so he's effectively on a 5-year deal now.
Yes.
Starting with 26. So you've got someone who is now a proven origin and international in Kolomatangi, and if you're gonna look at, you will put certain types of players on 5-year deals. He'd probably fit in there. So these are only our opinions. We don't know anything from within the club, but I would think if it was a case of 1 year, further year gets the job done, then you go a further year. Now, the difference with that being that we know that Dylan Brown would have accepted less money from Parramatta to have a contract that matched the number of years.
Yeah.
And the Eels weren't ever going to offer Dylan a 10-year deal. And I think most people agree that 10 years for any player is quite crazy because you just don't know what the next year's got in store, let alone the next 2, 3, 4, 5 through to 10 years. It's just insane that a length of contract that long, but that's what it would have taken. So if people want to know how we could have kept Dylan Brown, it would have been to match the 10 years. They wouldn't have had to up the contract amount, but the contract length would have probably got the job done. So for someone like Kolomatangi, 5 years, if we've gone to 4, I think for a player that's highly valued, as you said, John, 5, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lever that the club can absolutely pull if they're looking to, if that's what it takes to get him over the line. I think they will consider that and say, yeah, okay, on the balance of things, we can manage that. And on the flip side that I see in chat, was it Neil? Yeah, Neil pointing out that there is a deal, not trepidation, but there is a balancing act here where they obviously prioritise Keon as a guy to anchor their pack, but you don't want to sort of lose sight of the big picture where you sign Keon, but then it costs you a young player or two. And that's the difficult balancing act for all clubs. But we talked about it with Mark O'Neill with a junior focused club like Parramatta, and maybe there aren't the right incentives in place in the code right now to help pay off the balance between developing a kid, because as we talked about, you're putting nearly a decade into some of these kids. You sign them into a development squad in the under 14s, I think is officially the earliest, but they're in your junior catchment and they get into your pathways, and you put them through mats, through ball, through talent squads, into the flag. And look, we've already lost ones here and there in the last 12 months, but we've kept pretty much all the ones we would like to keep. But at some point we're going to lose some of them too, like the ones we want to keep too. And just got to minimise that. And I think that's going to be the big challenge, and I think they've done a good job of getting in front of it right now. And I don't think Keon compromises them in the short to medium term. And if anything, it might be even an incentive for the young kids to stick around. So that's going to be a good selling point there. Joel saying Dill overrated. Look, you're never going to catch me besmirching Dylan. I think he's a fantastic kid and had some great years as an Eel. I do think that the Newcastle contract is going to be almost impossible for him to live up to. But that's a separate matter of the market saying that you're worth as much as you are. And yeah, look, I think that Dylan could be a successful part of the Newcastle engine there, Craig, but they're going to need to do some smart recruitment around him now. With Callum Ponga and Dylan Brown on the sort of money they're on, we talk about those levers you can pull. The levers the Knights have right now, they're tiny little sticks. There's not much wiggle room they got going on there. But
no.
Yeah, that's a Newcastle thing now. And like I said, I don't want to besmirch Dill. I've got plenty of great memories.
No, and look, we've complained about this. We followed Dill since he was 16 years old, and got to know him, and it's. And
look, what I know he's not spotless record with the dance floor gaff that he had, but you can learn a lot about a player about how they interact with fans around training. And Dylan went always out of his way to, not just with us, not just with you, Craig, but with everyone that attends training, has always been a fantastic character there. So he's going to be a big acquisition for the Knights in that regard. I think he can be a guy that helps bring the locker room together and the fan base there. But like I said, that the contract itself, it is an albatross. And that is a Newcastle problem. So well done the deal for securing the bag quite literally there. But Newcastle's going to have to juggle that now. Yeah, look, Joel, I knew you weren't trying to attack Dill. Yeah,
No. We know that that's a debate that's long been there with other real supporters. We've got no issue with people raising that as a discussion point.
It's when I frame it the way I did, it's more because when we ask a question in isolation, people will hear the soundbite and say, "Well, Dylan's overrated." They're talking about Dylan being overrated. So we do need to sort of safeguard against that by adding some caveats and framing of the question there. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Joe asking us on a different question. Did you see the Union young fella play Drew Falatolu, who was would have been in the SG ball squad? Didn't have the numbers to go for the names, or names go for the numbers. So I wasn't sure if he was. Yes, Josh, I agree. I would also take the $13 million Albatross contract. Did you catch Drew in the SG ball trial, Craig? Without the benefit of
again, we were literally asking. I say we. I'm including Jeff there because I didn't watch the mats with Jeff. He was being sensible and watching from the shade. But he joined us for the SG ball, and we had a family of one of the players there in front of us, and we were asking without annoying, trying to find out who the different players were. So look, I sort of wrote the trial off in terms of getting any reconnaissance
marrying
on
up names to individuals, to numbers,
Yeah.
There would have been a couple of returning faces you could spy out here and there. Like you said, most of them would have been on the sideline for the ball. It was very much a case of like testing the depth of the squad and who's going to force their way into the periphery of the squad. On that note, speaking of young talent, JJ, I mean, it's always it's a question that we've been asked a fair bit, but it's always fair to get an updated opinion on it. He asked, who do you think will be our future six among Joash, Lorenzo, Lincoln, or maybe signing someone else? Anyone been reading your training reports will know that while Jonah Pezet has come in and been outstanding, Joash Papali has not taken that lying standing down. He's been incredibly electric at training and applying himself fantastically. But yeah, you got a couple of young guys there in Lorenzo, who just recently re-signed for the Eels long term, and Lincoln Fletcher, who has been a feature at preseason training. Halfback by trade, has also played fullback for the Australian schoolboys. So he's a pretty handy, not quite a gadget player there, that's not the right way of putting it, but he's got the ability to play a couple of important positions. I will preface this by saying, Craig, that I think it's too early to call our shot either way. We always talk about the precarious nature of junior development, and there are, once in a blue moon, a guy just comes through and you're going to be like, well, he is playing first grade. These are all very talented young men. There is a lot of football to be played, even in the next 12 months, to put themselves in the framework for that number 6 jersey opposite of Mitchell Moses. But yeah, right now, what's your gut feel? Is Joash doing enough to lead the way? Lorenzo obviously coming off.
Joash right now is next cab off the rank. So they've trained where Moses is off the field,
and Joash comes in and partners.
Joash partners. Yeah.
No surprises there.
Yeah, that to me indicates that when Joash is in New South Wales Cup, he's interchanging with Arpa in the fullback role as much as any other position.
That is the interesting battle for me this coming season is in Cup, what are they doing? Because if Joash does play fullback in Cup, I wonder if they're going to shape him to play more of a primary playmaking role from fullback.
Yeah, that's interesting. Where it's interesting is that Lincoln Fletcher has adapted very, very well to the NRL pre-season. Now, I don't want to dive in too much with Lincoln because I don't want to set expectations. I don't want to have the club saying to me, "What are you doing talking up one of our players before he's ready?" That sort of thing. He is obviously the long-term replacement for Mitch Moses.
Yeah. He is your 7.
And he's not exactly Mitch Moses, but I think there are elements to their game that aren't dissimilar. He's very fit and he's very fast, Lincoln Fletcher. So you noted before that he played fullback for Australian schoolboys. So he's got the pace to play in that position. Look, I think there's a lot to like about what he's doing in this pre-season. What I will say is that because Lorenzo's had probably the last couple of weeks, he's had to do a little bit of rehab as well. Now, none of this is unusual.
No,
I want to point this out. Like, if I'm talking about players being in rehab here, there, what have you,
there is a rolling rehab group
unusual
because guys get nicked up. The club's trying to get ahead of the injury and manage it, which means they're going to miss days here and there.
Yeah. So you always have players that are carrying something from the season before, so they might be a little bit behind the 8 ball in starting the preseason. But then during the preseason, sometimes it might be that the field might be a little bit hard on the feet with some players. And this isn't casting aspersions on the field, but it's summer.
No, Exactly.
It's
You got
summer,
hundreds of blokes treading on the ground. It just stuff like that happens. Kellyville is a fantastic
but above all
facility.
else, we're in summer now. We're not in winter where the ground is a bit softer, right? So the ground's always going to be that little bit harder in summer.
Sun. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It gets baked by the sun, and the fields there get plenty of water, but you get days of 40 degrees. You're going to get a reasonably hard surface there.
Basic agricultural science.
So anyway, So you get players that might just be that they get a bit of soreness in the legs from the kilometres that they're running every day, and they'll have their set distance each day that they expect the players to run, and they'll monitor that, how far they've run for the day. It sometimes it gives a bit of an indication as to when they're going to finish the session for the day.
Yeah, we talked about
finish it with
this isn't like a massive inside spoiler. We talk about the data driving the sports science here. That is absolutely part of it, is how they're managing their players' preseason load. Like they are monitoring everyone's output here, like versus their
everyone sees the players with the GPSs that they wear during games. Well, they wear them obviously at training, and it just gives them immediate feedback.
They've got the drones up, the coaches watching. There is so much that happens at training to monitor the players' output here, and but Neil for another great little started
the preseason. You've often got more staff there than you have players right at the start of the preseason.
Yeah, it is. It is full on. But yeah, Neil again with some good insight there from purely the perspective of the open training sessions. That Lincoln Fletcher won the 400 metre at the end of the open training session. That being a very impressive feat for a young man. Yeah, speaks absolutely to the athleticism, the fitness, the buy-in from the young man here. So yeah, he's putting the right foot forwards here, and one of those players where we mentioned it, full-time preseason on board. What they do with him to start the regular season, because obviously it's sort of signs pointing towards not SG Ball, Craig, but is it Flegg? It's probably got to be Flegg for Lincoln, but it's like they drop him back to the ball at any point because they want to bolster that team. I doubt it based on what we've heard, but yes, he's having a very good preseason. It's very exciting, and like you said, you don't want to overhype a young man too much because it is so hard to project talent to the NRL. But he's certainly not putting a foot wrong right now, which is great to see.
Yeah. Look, we've seen some talented players come up to an NRL pre-season and just not be able to
get found wanting. Yep, the jump is a mess.
It's you really. We've probably seen that the players just have not prepared themselves.
No.
For what lies ahead with an NRL pre-season. Now, mind you, an NRL pre-season, it's not that they're not as tough as they used to be, because they are. It's that they have a bit of an opportunity to ease into it, because they don't flog them at the start of on like day one when they come back. They might have to do a Broncos test to see where their fitness is at, but sports science these days guides people, guides teams and elite performance managers that injuries are more likely if you rip into players that have come back from a period of less activity. Yeah, so less activity means they're not training at an in-season level.
And the thing I've got to deal for a comment chat from Neil because he got us good. The other way of looking at the preseason is that it's prehabilitation, which is a word that you hear physios and sports science throw around. You're prehabbing, you're getting ahead of injuries by getting these players to peak fitness levels and maintenance of those levels. And you don't need them peaking through the entire preseason. That's not how it works. You need them to be peaking and oscillating between. It's like a sine curve. I've mentioned it in the podcast in the past, but yeah, it's about timing and the data driving this sort of thing, and about players that can do a full preseason versus those that can't, and then their conversion into in-season injury rate, it is jaw-dropping. So players that can get out there and do the full preseason or the majority of the preseason, like you said, accounting for those little niggle days where you're getting minor rehab and it's not really a concern, it can define your season both as a player and as a team.
Yeah. And we should also mention that, again, when it comes down to rehab and what have you, even during the season itself, you'll see a player not be part of training during the week. They'll be doing
just load management,
inverted commas, rehab for the week. And then they might join in the captain's run. And or they might just train in say an orange vest or something like that, which means do not contact during training. And sometimes for a player, it's the stage of their career, the latter stage of their career, so they're nursed. Or it might be like Gutho, who I don't know how he got through his last season with us, because he barely trained at different points during the season.
Absolute warrior, he was load managed to the tilt. Craig, Neil's pointed out in chat, and it's to our chagrin here, that it's a slow Eels news week, and we've still yapped for an hour and 15 minutes. So we might need to get the show moving, because
let's get to your musical interlude, John.
Yeah, look, it's Christmas week. Let's not dilly-dally around. So we're going for one of the classics, and when you're going shopping, it always pops up on the PA system. I think it's probably one of the most sing-alongable ones, but it's probably my favorite Christmas song. And I've played it before on the podcast, but it's Feliz Navidad. So real good one there. And I think this one is done by the Mariachis. And of course, it's by, in terms of its origins, it's Jose Feliciano, right? The blind singer. So this is a cover version of it. And yeah, one of the Christmas classics. Feliz Navidad. Bit of mariachi flavour to it.
And we should get people in chat.
No, Josh, I don't want to get sued for copyright. No Mariah Carey.
Yeah. We need to get people in chat to volunteer their favourite Christmas song, not necessarily carol. It can be a carol. And when we come to the end of the podcast, we'll revisit it. So get ready to drop in as we get towards the end of the podcast.
I love the positive energy from this one. It's just so good. You always just find yourself humming along to it in the shopping centre. As Seymour pops off in the background. I don't know if you guys caught that.
I've got a couple that I'm just going to quickly throw forward, John. Snoopy and the Red Baron.
Yep.
Their Christmas song. You've also got Wizard, their Christmas song. Slade, Christmas song. I'm always a sucker for John Lennon. Merry Christmas, War is over. Yep. So they're just a few off the top of the head, but I'll be interested in suggestions at the end of the podcast, because I might like to put up a playlist for myself, or at least one to take into Mum in hospital, because she's spending Christmas in hospital, Christmas Day, and we're organising to go over in shifts, because it's not really conducive to a whole lot of people being in the room at once.
Full extended family in the room at one time doesn't work that way, no.
Yeah. Yep. So she's enjoying music at the moment. So I always make sure I've got YouTube ready to go for some of her favourite songs.
Early shouts here. Where we got? We got Fairy Tale of New York from Scott Whitney, Going Home for Christmas, Paul Kelly, How to Make Gravy, Kevin Bloody Wilson.
Oh, yeah. How to Make Gravy, John. Just I almost tear up every time I hear that, even though it's got no bearing on my life. It's sort of like, it's Paul Kelly.
Yeah,
his songs can tug at the heartstrings.
Yeah, he's very, very good at that as a lyrical wordsmith in that regard. Loves a ballad, doesn't he? Like just the way he constructs his songs. Yeah. We got Wham! Last Christmas from Lisa. Good suggestion there.
Oh yeah.
Wham! Keep them coming. We'll roll through them at the end of the podcast too. But
I've got my own childish lyrics to Wham's Last Christmas.
That is half the fun as a kid.
Art does rhyme with another word.
Yes,
so
that's part of the as a kid. You go through and then obviously become an adult. But the the old Jingle Bells adaptations with the Batman and the Joker and whatnot, and all the silly stuff that goes through in that regard. You carry that sort of energy through the Christmas.
I was an adult when Last Christmas came out. I was just very juvenile in my sense of humour.
The Ageless Wonder.
John.
Yes.
Well, let's hit. There's not a huge amount of NRL news, but a little bit of significant one with the breach notices.
The naughty list.
Agents,
yeah, who's getting coal this year?
And then one naughty player.
Who is getting coal on the NRL shit list? I mean, the breach notice list. All right, let's go through it because this came out of nowhere. Like, there wasn't any build up towards this about like, hey, the NRL is going to be doing a breach notice announcement in December. This just came out cold and it was red hot. So we start with the two clubs, Craig. Media statement, breach notices, salary cap, and team selection protocols. Let me just bring this over across this screen over here. Sorry. Minimize that tab, bring this one over here. Always very organised. So, the NRL, National Rugby League, has today issued breach notices to the Sydney Roosters in relation to salary cap overspend and the Melbourne Storm in relation to team selection protocols. Full details are as follows. For the Sydney Roosters, NRL salary cap auditor has found that the Roosters spent $38,356 over the 2024 supplementary list, so the second tier contracts there, and training wage salary cap. While the breach is at the lower end of the scale, it is proposed that the club will be issued with a fine that is pretty much, it's not quite 1-to-1, but it's $36,070, so slightly less than what they overspent, which reflects the balances of the club's supplementary list and the training wage overspend when applied against an underspend with respect to the top 30 salary cap calculation in 2024. So this isn't the actual last year of competition, by the way. This is going back another year. This is the 2024 NRL. Yeah. So there is a year lag on this stuff. So it is proposed that the amount of $36,070 is applied to the club's future supplementary list and training wage. So it looks like they're going to be docked that from their future cap. It looks like it's actually not just a fine, it's a penalty against the cap too. And then for the Melbourne Storm, a review of the NRL found that the Melbourne Storm had not followed proper process around team selections on at least 2 separate occasions in 2025. So this one is now for the season prior. Writing to a player who was on a training contract. It is proposed that the Melbourne Storm be issued with a fine of $25,000, half of which will be suspended for 2 years. Both clubs will have an extended opportunity to respond to the breach notices given the time of year. So not big boy oopsies, but two of the bigger clubs there sort of blurring the lines. Yeah, couple of unlucky suspects.
I gather that Melbourne one was using a player that hadn't qualified.
Yes,
because he was train and trial.
That is the way it's being worded. Is that he did not meet selection process like protocol, but the Melbourne Storm picked him anyway on 2 separate occasions, and the NRL obviously let it go through on 2 separate occasions instead of pulling the hey, you can't do that, pick someone else card, which I feel like they probably should have done, given that it probably helped the Melbourne Storm win games. But here we are. It's a $25,000 fine, half of which is suspended. So obviously pending good behaviour in that regard in the next 2 seasons. So not crazy salary cap or selection happenings here, but noteworthy. And I suppose does potentially light the fuse in the next 12 months for these clubs getting more significant punishments if they do overstep again. But who knows? But that was probably on the smaller scale of the announcements there, because alongside the 2 clubs, we do have a player and 4 player agents getting coal for Christmas.
Yeah, let's get to the player agents, John.
Let me just get up here. So, player agent sanctions. NRL has made a final determination and suspended and fined player agents Mario Tartak, Matt Desira, Nash Dawson, and Chris Orr for breaches of the accredited agent scheme rules. So, under said AACOC, the Accredited Agents Code of Conduct, accredited agents are required to operate for high personal and professional standards. Well, I mean, okay, with Mario Tartak.
Next, John. Allegedly.
Mario Tartak has been suspended for 12 months and been fined $25,000. It was alleged that Mr. Tartak, was communicated with underage player without a parent and or legal guardian being present. It is also alleged that Mr. Tartak entered in the commercial arrangement with 2 NRL clubs in breach of the NRL accredited agent scheme's rules. Proposed penalty took into consideration previous breach proceedings, which imposed conditions that further breaches could result in suspension of accreditation. So he is now unable to operate for the next 12 months. Look, the contacting an underage player without the legal guardian being present, that is not exclusive to Mario Tartak. That if you go around to junior carnivals, to junior rep games, it is rife. The amount of agents that are soliciting players or, unsolicited solicitation. Matthew Desira. Matt Desira has been suspended for 6 months and fined $10,000, so pretty much half of what Tartak got. The termination relates to non-reporting and dishonesty following police charges and court proceedings which were brought against Mr. Desira. So nothing more elaborated there, but obviously not a great look when you're not reporting to the integrity unit correctly. We've seen clubs get pulled up for that, seen players get put up for that, and Desira obviously...
He was in the news. He was in the news for a particular offence.
Which I'm sure if you want to go Google, you can punch
he had denied. I won't go into it because I can't remember the fine details. So there's a chance I'll say something that's incorrect.
Yeah. Look, if you guys want to explore the details,
have to be able to say allegedly.
Yeah. Go punch in the player agent name and then look for headlines. Nash Dawson, who I had not heard of as a player agent. Nash Dawson has been suspended for 9 months and $15,000. The Goldilocks, right in the middle there, not too big, not too small. It is alleged that Mr. Dawson breached the NRL accredited agent scheme rules and the accredited agent's code of conduct. So he did the double whammy, following a physical altercation with agent Chris Orr at the Australian Secondary School Boys Rugby League Championships in 2024. It is alleged that Mr. Dawson also failed to cooperate with the NRL integrity unit. I would argue that non-cooperation with the integrity unit is like a lifetime or an indefinite suspension pending coming to the table and cooperating. But here he is getting a 9-month suspension, fined $15,000. And of course, the other side of that coin being Chris Orr. Chris Orr, part of the Orr brothers there, has been suspended for 6 months and a $10,000 fine. So he goes to the small end of the scale. It is alleged that Mr. Orr breached the NRL accredited agent scheme rules and the accredited agent's code of conduct following a physical altercation with agent Nash Dawson at the same carnival. 2024 Australian Secondary Schools Rugby League Championships. It is also alleged that Mr. Orr failed to cooperate with the NRL integrity unit. A lot of alleged there.
So you'd say you'd read into it that maybe one's the instigator and one isn't.
Yeah, and deal with the balance of the fines. I agree with you,
John. If they won't cooperate, it's almost like being in contempt of court, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. It's the NRL equivalent of being in contempt of court. Suspend the licenses until they come to the table. Like, it doesn't have to be a permanent suspension, like a lifetime suspension, but it can be indefinite. It's the same thing for a player that gets a deregistration until they meet NRL guidelines. So, I don't know. But yeah.
But it doesn't stop them owning their agency, does it?
No, it doesn't. The way I would read into it, it doesn't stop an owner of an agency. And I don't know which one's own agencies here. I think, obviously, the All Brothers having their own agency. But Tartak and Desira, I think, do. I've never heard of Nash Dawson as a player agent before, so I can't tell you. But yes, I similar to other player agents in the past that have copped major suspensions, I think they will still run said player agencies and then obviously be liaising, interacting with their other agents inside said agency, but they can't handle direct player agent responsibilities. So there's plenty of ways to circumvent or skirt around that we've seen it in the past, and I can't imagine this hurting too much outside the hip pocket fines there. But the NRL taking some action here. Final breach notice, 60s. This one goes to a player. Sean Bloor, Melbourne Storm double whammy. NRL today issued Melbourne Storm player Sean Bloor with a breach notice alleging a breach of NRL code of conduct following an NRL integrity investigation following the finalisation of court proceedings. This one dates back to July 2024, where Sean Bloor pleaded guilty to common assault in Sydney courts, and he has been given an extended opportunity to respond to the breach notice, but they don't actually specify what the breach notice is punishing him with. So I don't know if it's going to be a suspension or a fine or a concerning letter or concerning act letter. Just that the NRL has issued him for breach notice.
John, I'm just going to backtrack. I just had a quick look. Nash Dawson is Reece Walsh's agent.
Oh, there you go. So
just about the biggest player in the code.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't dig in to see what the name of the agency is, but it just said he's the agent for Reece Walsh. So there you go. He might be more well known north of the border.
Yes, yeah, that might just be a case of geographical proximity, right? We don't really follow the north of the border stuff, so yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, John, like you, I've got no idea what that will mean for Sean Bloor, you would have to say that you'd think at the very least of a significant fine for that sort of breach. Let's move on. Couple of little movements in terms of the player market, and then we'll hit those the favourite Christmas songs to finish off the podcast, as well as any questions. Davvy Moale's going to the Storm for a year before he joins the Sea Eagles. So he'd already signed the deal for the Sea Eagles, but now he's done a 1 year because he's been given an immediate release from South, which then means he'll go and stay with the Storm for a year before joining Manly. That's right. That's
delicious,
right, isn't it?
Delicious irony to this, isn't there? And how much grief the Eels fans and the club cop for signing Jonah Pezet on a 1 year deal because of a player going to another club on a future contract, only for the Melbourne Storm to be the same. There's other club involved in the Jonah Pezet transaction to then do exactly the same. Look, I'm surprised. Obviously, it speaks towards Manly salary cap pressure for next year that he's not going directly to the Sea Eagles. Moale he burst on the scene with a lot of raps, Craig. Didn't fully realise him at South Sydney, sort of stagnated there for a while, and obviously going to Manly trying to change the scenery and reignite his development. But I think this is a pretty solid pickup for Melbourne. I think he can add some value there. Craig Bellamy loves getting his hands on these kind of prospects and working them into really solid NRL contributors under the Melbourne system there, where everyone does their job. And
maybe Manly becomes a beneficiary.
Manly could be the big beneficiary here, absolutely. A year in the Melbourne system, the standards that Bellamy and company hold their players to drive them towards consistent and high levels of success. I see this as a win for Moale, a win for Melbourne, a win for Manly. And I suppose you can argue it's a win for South too, because they were feeling the cap pinch with David Fafita joining the club, and this gives them a chance to alleviate some of that. Hopefully not enough to help with Keon Kolomatangi, but that remains to be seen. Good pick up here for Melbourne. And like I said, Manly obviously long-term beneficiaries. But north of the border, we go back to Queensland now, mate, because there's been a raid from a new coach on his old club.
Yeah, so Hiroti has gone from the Sharks to the Titans.
Yes. Very handy utility back. Finally sort of established himself in first grade this year, it feels like, after years of sort of being on the periphery of the Sharks first grade team, sort of filling in here and there for injuries and suspensions. But he goes to join Josh Hannay at the Titans. Probably another sign that adds momentum to the idea that Brian Kelly is probably on his way to Parramatta with a bolster in the backline there for the Titans. Hiroti was a pretty good player this year, Craig. I don't think he did much wrong. I think that the Sharks' backline's obviously very congested, and to the point where we've talked about maybe raiding them for a potential signing. And there was
we've probably talked about that for about the last 2-3 seasons, John.
Yeah, you don't have to get the pat yourself in the back or bang your chest about getting something right, but we were all over the Kyle Iro, sort of being jammed at the depth charts for the Sharks and maybe being a potential value pickup, but he's gone on to become a genuine star in the NRL, and I think there's still good players behind him now that you can potentially get out of the Sharks, but that's for the Eels and other clubs to figure out. I think good pick up for the Titans, especially if Kelly is gone. They get a guy that can cover multiple positions, centre and wing pretty comfortably, fullback in the pinch too. For Maweni, a chance to continue to establish himself in the NRL. So I think that's good business for most parties there, Craig. I can't imagine he's getting paid an insane amount, but he gets a chance to really establish himself at the Titans this year, or this coming year.
Absolutely. John, look, I didn't talk about it in the Parramatta part, but Richie Penisini is the one that I hope takes the bit between the teeth, and looks at a potential opportunity that could still come his way.
It is right there for him. It's about staying healthy. It's about being on the field and performing. And I think he is one of a number of players internally that absolutely shapes how the Eels view their recruitment, about recruitment retention and their long-term visions of the back line. Richie's had a lot of potential for a number of years, but has not been able to stay healthy. And that's the biggest challenge for him, is just staying on the field. And
and even sometimes with pre-season with that, just staying on the field.
Yeah.
What I did like this week, a couple of little isolated moments. One was just during the left side versus right side drill. He was playing out of position. He'd normally be playing on the right side, the same as Will in this pre-season. But in a particular drill, they came up against each other, and Richie and someone else absolutely flattened Will. They gave it to him. But then on the Saturday session, there was a point where the Eels worked an overlap over towards the Fox. The pass wasn't ideal. The Fox really had to stretch out for it to reel the ball in, but he did that, and he was just into mustering his pace, and then Richie Penisini came flying across field and wrapped him up, and it was to me, it was a reminder of what we saw glimpses of in the trial last year with Richie at defence. I thought Richie's defence was looking really good, and then of course he had another season marred by injury in 2025. So he wasn't doing anything that was standing out in the pre-season up to this point. People would have probably seen that I hadn't mentioned him very much at all, but in the last week he certainly gave something to look at pre-season training. Hopefully he realises what's at stake in this coming season, that there is an opportunity for him. And where I mentioned Eraz Nanva maybe being a player who might be closer to a debut than a couple of those other younger ones, who knows, it could be Richie.
Yeah, a lot can change with a good second half of the preseason on the other side of Christmas into the trials, where you can gain a lot of ground by putting good tape on there. But yeah, Eraz Nanva has certainly risen to the challenge right now, Craig, and I think Richie needs to respond now. So, like I said, stay healthy, get in the field, play some good football, and like I said, that can change calculations for recruitment. Doesn't mean the Eels might not still chase a premier back. Like, they've got money, they've got cap space, they've got options, but it could definitely change the competition and the depth levels around who's long term at the club. So, love to see him respond there. In terms of our docket, did I put anything else on my run sheet?
I think
we talked about Maweni Hiroti. We talked about Davvy Moale.
Yeah.
I'll have a quick gander at the.
Any questions? And otherwise, we'll just head into the.
How old is Richie from Mitchell there? He is he last year flag or is he graduated flag?
Yeah, I think last year might have been his. That might have been his last year.
I think that was his. I think he's now a flag graduate. Yeah, because he was in the 23 SG ball team, and then 24-25 as a 20 and 21-year-old in flag, and that means 26 he'll be a graduate. So, Oh, Neil's saying he'll be 21 in April, so we'll still make him flag eligible then if he's turning 21 next year. I'll defer to you then, Neil.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's possible because he debuted in New South Wales Cup 2 years ago. Got that injury right at the start of the game, wasn't it? Because he basically came up from SG ball.
Yeah,
might have played a game or two in flag and then was elevated to New South Wales Cup. Got a concussion at the start of his debut game. Then he missed. Then he missed all of 24, chunk of 25. So yeah, he's probably 21 this.
Yeah, the ACL.
That's right. He'd be 21.
A lot of stuff outside of his control there. And we always talk about controlling what you can control. But that'll be the challenge for him, is just getting a bit of good luck and getting on the field consistently, because there is a footballer right there. Like, there is some serious talent there, but just needs to be on the field showing the coaching staff and the recruitment staff what he can show. And that will Neil's going for his official profile. So yeah, I'll defer to you then. If that's what the official profile is saying, then let's not overthink it. What else we got here? Neil, again, sort of like the same concerning thought for me that I briefly stumbled on was, does Moale leaving early give the Bunnies the requisite funds to bump up their offer to Keon? That is a legitimate concern. You can't really undersell that. But they were feeling the cap pinch heading into this year, or at least that's what the media reports are saying. So I don't know how much that helps him. Maybe they can top up Keon's current deal as part of an extension. But they just picked up David Feeder. They're trying to re-sign or sign players in general because their squad's a bit skinny. It's very top-heavy. But who knows? Who knows? Doesn't look like there's too many other questions, guys. If you want to get any questions in or Christmas carol, Christmas song favourites, get them in now before we start wrapping up proper. Just having a quick gander at the NRL news, Craig. I don't see anything on the tracker right now. It doesn't look like we've got anything major.
No, we'll have to wait till tomorrow for
the
unexpected news.
Yeah, that is almost certainly the way it plays out. Even though you got assurances that the Eels wouldn't be dropping any bombshells tomorrow, which is a negative or a positive, depending on... Sorry, my dog just freaked out. Ralph, you okay? He was scurrying behind.
Maybe he knows.
He's off to get the mailman, apparently. Okay, he's okay. He just scurried off. I don't know if the microphone caught that. It was like the comical, no friction.
No, I heard it.
He's okay. What else we got here?
I had a similar sound in the kitchen, John, earlier this year when a lizard got into the kitchen and was trying to get traction on the lino floor, and it was just there was that comical cartoon sound of the foot going. Except it was a lizard of all things.
You can see how like the original like Looney Tunes creators and whatnot got their inspiration for the sound effects and the visual effects when you watch a little dog just have no friction on the wooden floorboards. Hey Warren, Merry Christmas, mate. Good to have you in chat. We are just about to wrap up the show though. But if you want to throw in your favourite Christmas song, whether it's a carol or a pop or rock song, or a question in general, we'll field them before we go in. Why is your mailman deliver at 9 p.m? Hey, it's Christmas. You get the Amazon deliveries until midnight at the moment right now. So who knows what the postman's got for us in terms of Parramatta stuff. But we've been told no news this week. We have to wait and see if that holds true. Josh, with a question.
What does the mailman deliver, John? I'll tell you what the mailman delivers. Cardboard boxes full of German cockroaches. How about that? You have my sympathies, mate. The German roach issue. Oh, little bastards. What do we got here? Josh asking us the over and unders on Matto playing 50% of his season at RM Cup. Well, that's a tough one, mate, because of how congested it is in the cup level, and we talked about the players that are missing out, right, Craig? I don't know if the Eels would spare Matterson in that situation where he can't get a consistent start at cup level for whatever reason. Would they spare him maybe embarrassing not the right word, but the inglorious outcome of playing RMC, Craig? I don't know. John,
the other thing to consider there too is that there are mechanisms in the RMC about playing top 30 players. Like clubs can't just say, well, this guy's not getting a run. They've got their point system, I think, for the salary cap, and they can't just throw in a top 30 player.
Yeah, look, I hope it doesn't come down to that. No. That's my only response is I wouldn't like to see it come down to that. So, look, it's hard enough if you've got a top-flight NRL player and they get dropped to New South Wales Cup and then they're playing at a something that's like the equivalent of a local park. Now, I'll give you to me the prime example. I've had a couple of prime examples of that over the years. One was one of the Morris twins playing at over at Wenty in New South Wales Cup when he was so far above New South Wales Cup level. And it wasn't that he was coming back from injury. He'd been dropped and then he tore Wenty to pieces in that New South Wales Cup game. And the other was Croker from Canberra.
Yeah.
A couple of years back playing at Kellyville before Kellyville was developed. So it was essentially he's playing on a field that just had one hill and a demountable change shed.
That's right. Oh,
and
that's a
he went back to playing first grade after it, but he's had this little stretch in reserve grade. And I couldn't believe that I was watching a player of his calibre running around at a field where there was zero facilities at that stage. And I mean like zero facilities, because there certainly wasn't any spectator facilities there.
Might have just been a well-kept goat track at that point, yeah, like you said, it doesn't really help either party, I don't think, in that regard. But look, you talk about the clean slate, the chance to rebuild those bridges. Matterson will get a fair go if he puts in, I think, Craig. And the problem for Matterson is separate to that. It's just that the Eels have a lot of depth in the forward pack, and I think if he is still putting in for the cup level, then there's still value to be had for him. So on that note, Josh also pointed out indignity was the word I was probably looking for there. So well done there, mate. Warren, who's just come to chat, is asking about Brian Kelly. Warren, I don't know if you want to go back and listen to the podcast, but we mentioned that while it's not official, the signs north of the border seem to be indicating that he is in the process of joining the Eels, which is a positive. And then we also talked about the acquisition of Maweni Hiroti to the Titans, which would also, it doesn't guarantee, but does lend credence to them bolstering their backline depth in the potential loss or scenario where they lose Kelly to the Eels. So it looks well. And then Joshua also points out that didn't Cardi play Ron Massey Cup? I think so. So I'm not sure what those mechanisms always point out. I talk about restrictions for playing top 30 players, but I think Cardi at one point.
Well, that was after we released him.
Oh, so yeah, he probably doesn't, like one of those weird asterisk things where he doesn't count as a top 30 player anymore. Yeah, so that's true.
Yeah, because he went to St.
Mary's, to finish the season.
Cup. Yeah. So he was no longer with the Parramatta Eels. Released, went back and was playing. So with no current contract with his NRL club.
Yeah. All right, a couple of final Christmas recommendations that come in, Christmas song recommendations. Jingle Bell Rock from Paul, that's a classic. When you hear that guitar come on, that dirty little, it's almost grungy, isn't it, when it comes at the start? It's another Christmas classic for sure. And then, what was the other one? Oh, Neil Ross saying Let It Snow from the Die Hard Welcome to the Party Power scene, we had the Die Hard Beethoven piece on last week, another classic there. Die Hard always a easy watch, I'd say, Craig. It's just an action classic. Plenty of great moments, quotable quotes, and great music from that one there. Phil, we did touch on it last week. New South Wales Cup and flag draw has been released. We talked about it in the context of the junior reps. We didn't talk about the flag and cup jersey flag and New South Wales Cup, Craig. But in the New South Wales Cup, I'm going to take it with a very big grain of salt. The Eels are scheduled to play a lot of games out of CommBank as it stands, but I think there's a pretty fat asterisk next to that, depending on the surface of status of the surface, given week to week, and they could be bumped to Kellyville or other precincts as a potential outcome at any given week. So let me just pull up the Eels schedule. Eels open at Melbourne. Then they got a round 2 bye, which is lame. Better than a round 1 bye, but still pretty ordinary. At CommBank for the Dragons in round 3. At CommBank away with the Penrith Panthers, so a nice little home away from home game there. In fact, they've got a big run of games through CommBank there. James Hardy too. So,
same as the NRL.
Yeah, but the downside, and this is the brutal part, is that they close out the season. Their last game is a home game, but the month before that is on the road. And for the Jersey flag, that includes a trip to Fiji as well. So they need to be very much locked in for that month away from both CommBank and Kellyville.
So Jersey flags playing out of Kellyville?
Jersey flag, I believe, are playing out of Kellyville. And the cup is a mixture of Kellyville and CommBank. Jersey flag, Eels. James Hardy Centre of Excellence is their listed home ground. Let me just see if there's any other quirky games they might have at home. Still James Hardy. But yeah, that last month for the flag, it's rough. You go to Lidcombe, which is not too bad to play the Tigers, then Redfern, but then you're off to Churchill Park in Lautoka, and then in Queanbeyan, safe at Oval. So yeah, they got some travelling to do at the end of the season.
Well, John, our final podcast before Christmas, we do have,
depending on whether... Sorry, we do have one more question from our chat before I let you closes off. Lisa asking us about the rumoured Adidas kit for 2027. I don't have any privileged position to talk about it. I only heard about it this week. I feel like with every apparel potential sponsor, Craig, there's like positive and negatives on both sides. Some people tell you that they do some stuff really good and other stuff, pretty ordinary. Adidas kit, I mean, they're obviously a titan of sports apparel. I thought that their Roosters kit looked pretty ordinary. But if they do sign on board with Parramatta, I hope they can do a good job with us because you obviously want to see a good jersey for the Eels, right?
Probably the huge plus is the global branding. And interestingly, John, if this was something that were to come to fruition, during The Voice, Mel C was in a blue and gold Adidas tracksuit in 1 week. If you dig back through the season, you might see it. So you've already got someone modelling the colours, if that's the case. So yes, but we'll just leave that there because it's
outside of my pay grade, yeah. But there are rumours going around. I could see it, on Facebook, and someone texted me the other day about it, and I was like, wait, what? But like I said, I think every apparel, whether it's Macron right now for the Eels or in the past we've had, who was our last kit maker? There's a few of them going around, but there are pros and cons for all of them. Obviously, it means if you're buying a new jersey, you've got to be cognizant of the change in sizes because a large in Adidas is not a large in Macron necessarily. So you might want to get to the Leagues Club and try out not even to plug the Leagues Club here, Craig. You might want to get to the Eel store and see new sizes if there is a difference in kit being made in 27. So, but yes.
John, a large in Macron was not a large in anything.
No. A French large is or Italian large, whatever Macron is, definitely errs towards the side of medium than it does the large.
Yes, I was going to say it's to the small side of medium. I would have thought so. Although they did seem to improve that a little bit in
second run
last year because I received a jersey and for some stuff and I was thinking, this could be a waste of time.
Neil's right. It feels like you had to add two sizes.
And I looked at I looked at the size, I thought, it's not going to fit. And no, it fit. It actually had quite a bit of room, so I was pleased about that. So John, our last podcast before Christmas, of course, I think our goal is to still get a podcast out next week. We'll see.
I don't see a reason why we wouldn't.
And we might be able to, even if we don't go live, we might also be able to record something with Chris Ricketts. I think it's about time we get catch up with Chris. He'd had some ideas for podcasts. We haven't had a chance to speak to Chris for so long since he moved over to America. So we've messaged a little bit, but not too much. Just that time difference.
I'll tell you what, they might want to keep him in America because the Chicago Bears have turned it around with his arrival. They're now
there you go.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with a new coach or anything like that. It's clearly the arrival of Chris Ricketts in Chicago, who's turned around the fortunes for one of the long-ailing franchises in the NFL. And by the way, Seattle Seahawks, number 1 seed in the NFC, beat the Rams in overtime in an absolutely insane game. I totally wasn't stressed out in that game at all, Craig. Totally not stressed at all. And the Ashes, the Aussies get a chance to shut down some injured players because they've already won the series. Pat Cummins and Nathan Lyon, I believe, are out for the series now with Melbourne and Sydney still on the docket. But the Aussies claiming the victory in Adelaide on the back of some good innings from Carey and Head. So well done to the Aussies. And for the Poms, who talked a lot of shit coming here. I don't know if you caught it, mate. They talked a lot of shit coming into these Ashes. They've been embarrassing. Go back to England, mate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely embarrassing because Australia's had a weakened bowling line-up throughout the series with injuries and
Osman Khawaja,
and that's not
Steve Smith missing a game.
That's not casting aspersions on the blokes that are in there doing the job because they've all been test players anyway. But given the frontline bowlers that have been missing, and then Steve Smith missing as well, it's just they've not been in the contest really, England. So John, just wanted to wish all of our listeners, our viewers, a joyous Christmas and New Year. Hopefully it's a happy and healthy one.
Food comas for everyone
all
on
you
Thursday.
and your families.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an honour to be able to be welcomed into homes and in cars and wherever you're listening to the podcast on. We get such kind words, such kind messages sent to us through the year, and then especially at Christmas time. We really do appreciate it. All the people that have come up during the year, introduced themselves, said g'day, had a chat with us. It's been something that's humbling for us. We really do appreciate meeting fellow Eels supporters, because what unites us all is being blue and gold tragics. And we've all got our own supporter story to tell. And it's always interesting listening to what fellow supporters have been through, or the travelling that they do, or some of the funny stories that they've got to tell, or even just the times that they meet different players and what their experiences are like. Everyone's got a supporter story to tell, and it's wonderful to hear it. And as I said, it's even more humbling when we become part of their story as supporters, because they talk about the Cumberland Throw being part of their weekly Eels support. So we couldn't be more grateful than what we are. We thank you for that. We'll be aiming to be bigger and better in 2026. We've got a few things to organise over the next month or so, but we're going to have a busy time because junior reps is going to be kicking off. So we'll be straight into that, and looking forward to a bright and hopefully successful 2026
there's a lot to
for
be
our
excited
mighty
about.
Eels.
A lot to be excited about, and we know that sports are volatile. A lot can change still, and you can have some tough results here and there. But there is no doubt, Craig, that the club is on the up and up with the changes they've made from top to bottom, the right people in the right positions here. They're also coinciding for a crest of junior talent that is just, the timing is beautiful. And I think there's a lot to be excited about as a Parramatta fan. So to echo what you said, Merry Christmas to one and all. The happiest of holidays. I hope you all have fantastic food comas on Thursday. Carry that through to Boxing Day on Friday. Hopefully everyone's got their shopping done. I got mine done today for food, and it was typical, awful Christmas experience. It is what it is. But hopefully everyone's on top of that, and just have a fantastic couple of days with your loved ones. Honestly, Christmas transcends religion in Australia, doesn't it? It is a cultural experience here, and it's just a day to just spend with your family and friends. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it here. And I know there's a whole ugly backdrop of what happened to Bondi, but it's just a chance for everyone to really get together and share some great moments with everyone that really means a lot to them. So take advantage of it, and we'll catch you guys next week. I still think Tuesday, is the plan. Tuesday live stream. But love you all for popping in. You are absolute legends, and couldn't be more proud of the community that you guys are creating here with us at TCD. It is truly a pleasure and privilege to be with you guys every week. Love you all.
Merry Christmas, and go you mighty Eels.